Have you been experiencing internal financial struggles triggered by economic concerns? Are you feeling capped at your current income level and can't seem to realize your financial potential? Energy healer Jean Border has created an emotional freedom technique, or EFT, tapping protocol to help calm the inner voice that keeps you stressed. Claim your free copy at jeanborder.com/vow and say goodbye to those financial blockages. Welcome to another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Jean Border. It's not just about dreaming, it's about making those dreams a practical reality. Subscribe to us via your favorite network by visiting our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. Now, get ready. Your journey to success starts here.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Jean Border, with another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, where we talk about all things energy and how to use energy and mindset to better your business. I have a really cool guest with me here today that I've had multiple conversations with. But before we get to that, I want to remind you that if you're having money stress, money tension with the U.S. economy right now, some people are getting a little bit tight in their thoughts about money. There is an EFT tapping protocol free for you right below. Just click on the link, jeanborder.com/income. That will help calm down your nervous system and allow you to make calm, rational, informed decisions about your money, which is always the goal. Don't react, take positive actions. jeanborder.com/income, or just click the link below. And now for my special guest. This is Ronnie Loaiza. And she is...
Hello, everybody. Hi, Jean.
Hi there. She is into things like behavioral science and how that can impact your life through things like habits. And I'm very happy to have her here today. Ronnie, tell us a little bit about you and how you got from where you were to where you are now in your business.
Well, it's interesting. I just want to, you touched a point on me talking about the mindset around money and the economy, because that's how you're in the habit of reacting, right? You react. You're in the habit of doing that. And I found you, somehow EFT stood out. And, I followed you and then we started talking because I was not a very, let's say, self-care ritual routine kind of girl. I tried years, over 2 decades of trying to find that secret to, getting that zen for meditating. And I would think of, what do I have to do today? Or a grocery list, or I forgot to do the laundry. I would just think. And I thought that you were supposed to get to a point where there's nothing. And I found out, that's not it. But I was just not a guided meditation or even my own meditative kind of person. And like a lot of my clients now, I'm a life coach and I'm a habit coach. A lot of my clients were also like, look, this is supposed to be good for us, but I say the same thing if I try to journal, or the affirmations, they don't work for me after a while. They just stop. They're not in the habit of doing the affirmations or doing the meditations or, the ritualistic self-care routines. And every single one is good for you if it touches you and if you do it. Like I used to say as a personal trainer, every diet in the world works if you do it, but they're not sustainable. That's why they don't last. So I found EFT because somebody presented it to me in 2020, and I found out I could do it on my own once I went through some guided ones. And I still like the long form ones with particular topics like the one you're having now. And there's so many. There was like for back pain, for menopause, for, blocks or whatever it was, emotional trauma. So I like the long form ones with particular topics, but for just my morning with me, I also found guided 1-minute EFTs. Now I just talk to myself to what I want to talk to. And if people know EFT, you know what I'm talking about. But if you find out more about EFT, you'll see you can talk yourself through it. And the reason it works for me, I found out, is because I can't just sit still and try to not think. I am really physical. I found my zen when I used to walk, especially at the beach when I lived near the shore. When I walk, I'm physically doing something. I'm smelling the air. I'm listening to whatever I'm listening to. I feel the sand under my feet, or I feel, whatever it is, the temperature. It's physical. I feel it through my body. Same thing with EFT. I'm so busy tapping my own body physically and talking to myself, I can't be thinking of anything else. That's all I'm focusing on. I found my Zen. That's why I loved EFT.
You mentioned something really important. EFT works best if you're using language that speaks to you, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm working one-on-one with a client, I'll do a round of just words that felt right to me, right?
Right.
But at the end of the round, I'll say, okay, so what came up for you? And I listen very closely to the words they use so that I can incorporate those into the next round, because that brought up something for you that you can release, that will allow your nervous system to calm down, that will allow you to move forward with ease.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found with a lot of EFT practitioners that they use wordings like, no, I don't feel that way. No, I don't. I don't fear success. No, I don't feel negative about this. So I didn't like it. So I like talking to myself with my own wording. So yeah, that's great that you're ahead of the game with that. And that became my habit. Now this morning, it's part of my little habit, my 1 minute. So how I got into this is I was a personal trainer. And when 2020 hit, I used to go to private studios and I used to go to people's homes, but everything shut down. So I'm like, oh, great. Now what? Well, open up that laptop. Let's go on Zoom. So I started training people on Zoom and it stuck. I am now a life coach. I'm a full-time life coach and habit coach, and I still have, so it's sort of, and I still have some diehards that won't let me go. They love the Zoom. It's so much more convenient than talking at the gym, waiting for a machine or whatever it is. We really focus one-on-one. I can only watch them and I show them how to do it. So it works. So I still have a few and I still keep up my certifications in personal training. But when COVID hit, people talk to me. My clients would be like, well, I'm like, how's your sister? How's your boss? Whatever. Things we always talked about. It's like, well, Ronnie, they're not working out. They're really, they're pulling the big girl pants up, but they're just not making time to work out. It's like, well, do you want me to talk to them? So I started talking to people just as a favor. And I was finding out mostly that, if you were the boss, you had to be there for your company, for your workplace, for your team, your staff, especially during COVID. And if you were the worker, you were afraid of not being indispensable. So everybody was working at different weird hours, always available on email. It would just not work out. And I thought, but everybody bought a Peloton. I mean, where are they? No, people were they felt really self-conscious is what I noticed. I mean, these are really powerful people, powerful women, but they just felt self-conscious working out at home or things got interrupted, So I would help them figure out what is the real problem. And a lot of it was they felt self-conscious. A lot of it was, oh my God, I got all this done. And a lot of stress. We went through a lot of stress. So I would help them find out what the real problem was, find how to do it at home because they couldn't go to the gym anymore, find their safe space physically and mentally, set up their barriers, their boundaries, tell their family, hey, this is my little corner of the garage, or this is my office, and I'm going to work out this, and leave me alone in a nice way. So I was helping people, and somebody one time went, oh, you coached me so well. I was like, okay. I was thinking I'm a trainer, not a coach, because I still wasn't thinking it. And somebody else like, no, you should be a life coach. And I was like, what? Everybody was becoming a life coach all of a sudden. But then I took it seriously when my sister said, I told you that years ago. So I looked into it and I was really astounded at how many different specialties there were. There were over 32, I remember on the first list I saw, from menopause coach to relationship coach to divorce coach, of course, executive coach, and then even more niched in executive, business coach, entrepreneur coach, whatever it was, there were a lot of specialties. So I got interested. And that's how I decided to go to school for me so that I would understand what it is, learn the profession, learn the ethics, learn the curriculum, learn the values, the core pillars of it. And I did it for me. That's also why I became a personal trainer, because I want to know how to do it, but not just how to do it. I implemented my style. Back to coaching. Through the coaching, I found out, just like I did in my personal training and just in the careers before then, everything was always a pattern. How do things get done? It's sure, if you're in the military, you're required. You're ordered to do it, you do it. You have a deadline, you do it. But when you're on your own, especially now, solopreneurs and self-employed and entrepreneurs, it's your habits, baby. And I found that out in personal training. Yes, I went through my exams. Yes, I went through the practice, went to school, got my certification, but I noticed right away, it's mindset. It's 90% mindset. We can give you a cookie cutter workout and do cardio 3 times a week and do this strength training, whatever. But if you're not in the right mindset, those are the ones that they would quit. So same thing in life coaching. You got to really start with, everybody says your reason why, but people come with a goal and they end up finding the real goal and the real layer after layer under layer, the real reason why. Well, why that? Well, why that? Well, why do you want to feel confident? Well, and they really find out what it is that's bothering them, what it is they want to change, and what the resistance is, what the problems are. And it's more than just fixing with a hack, a plan, a diet, another one of the shiny objects. It really is. And so that's when I got interested in habit coaching, started reading more about it, all these books. I always have. Before Atomic Habits, there was the Tiny Habits. Before then, Brian Fogg. Before then, Pavlovian, NLP. I can never say it right. All the way back to Aristotle, people have always talked about habits. So it's not new. It's popular now. So I took it seriously and I was finding out, well, are there habit coaches? Yes, there is. Yes, there are. And I found out the different schools and different certifications, and I decided to study and become a habit coach. And I chose one that's renowned worldwide, and it's based in Sweden. And I love it. I'm like, after 3 years of evolving, I found really what my purpose is and what my passion is. I know people say that, but I really do feel passionate when I implement and I tailor the habit coaching to any aspect of what my client wants. And usually they come with one thing. We end up working on various aspects of their lives, because every aspect of your life, your family impacts the other aspect of your life. Your family impacts your career impacts your dating, your relationships impact your health impacts everything. It's just socializing, spiritual, all of it in one way or the other is a subset of the other aspect of your life.
You mentioned 2 things that I want to go back to. And number one, you didn't actually mention, but I saw it in action. Okay. And that is being very aware of the language that you use. You said something and you said, but, oh, wait a minute. And you changed the language that came from your mouth from a negative, which is, I did this, but no, I did this and, right? So it
felt weird. No, it wasn't, but yeah.
Yeah. So just being aware of the language we use. Well, I'm always this. Are you really? Or were you that at a few times that you remember? I'm always sick. Well, are you really? Are you sick right now? No. Well, then you're not always sick. You have been sick in the past more than you would like, but you're not always sick, right? Always these absolutes don't leave opportunity for growth or for change, right?
The other part, we're in the habit of how we word things, in the habit of reacting. You are in the habit of reacting to different people in different ways. You're in the habit of behaving a certain way around different people, or you're in the habit of behaving a certain way in different situations. Same thing with your talk. And I know people talk about negative self-talk, and I'm not talking about clicking your heels and being positive Pollyanna. Really, you can change on the spot your behavior by changing how you felt. Are you angry? Are you joyful? Are you sad? Are you in despair? Whatever it is, why did I have that emotion? What's the thought behind it? And then I always ask my clients, ask yourself, if you are in a trial right now, proving this to be 100% absolute fact, and the trial lawyer demands it, is that absolutely factually true? No, it usually is not. So your thought, is that true? Is that absolutely true? Like you just said. Are you always sick? Well, no. How often are you sick? And we find how you're wording things. Are you an extremist in how you word things and how you think of things? Because that determines your behavior. Again, you're in the habit of reacting certain ways, your habitual way of thinking.
That's one thing that I had
brought that up because maybe I've gotten in the habit of coaching myself.
Well, you become aware. When you say things so many times to so many clients, and then you catch yourself doing it, and the light bulb goes off, oops, I just did what I coach my clients not to do, right? Awareness is, in my world, awareness is the first step to change. So awareness is very important, right? And then you focus on what you want and you take strategic action to get you there. But the first part is you have to become aware of where you are and what you actually want. And that leads me to the second point, which was, the why, right? In my world, in my thoughts, go 7 levels deep. Well, I want this. Well, why? Because of this. Why? Because of this. And eventually you get to what is really driving you. What is the basis for all your habits?
It can be either cathartic or really, I don't want to say traumatic. That's way too big of a word, but a little bit not feeling. It is. They don't go through the catharsis right away. It's a realization of like, oh,
it's eye-opening.
This is what I really want. It is eye-opening, and it's uncomfortable is the word I'm looking for. It can be really uncomfortable and shaking, but then the joy comes because I know what I really want to do. And that's where we can start to, okay, what's one tiny act or action that will evolve into a habit? Whatever it is, whether it's in your career growth, how to grow at your job, get a promotion, it's how you behave at your job, not just the required stuff. I had a woman who came to me after being at her workplace, her company for, was it 2? Yeah, 2 years. Great KPIs, every year they had like a review. And the only thing she got when she coached with me to ask more than, well, how am I doing? It's like, can you tell me exactly what you see if you were talking about me to someone else? And she's like, okay. And she came up with that. She's like, I don't know if I can, but that's what she wanted to know. She asked her boss. And he said, yeah, you got to get out of the weeds. Just get out. You do everything you're supposed to do. You got to get out of the weeds. You don't micromanage, but your head's micromanaging. And she's like, why didn't he tell me exactly what? I'm like, see, you're micromanaging again. It's like, just take that for what it is. He can see that you're micromanaging in your mind. Okay? So anyway, she took that. She's like, great. Within 5 months of my coaching, it's how she got in the habit of reacting to emails, how she got in the habit of talking to the teammates, how she got in the habit of not delegating, but trusting her staff more and getting feedback with confidence, with agency. Little things she got in the habit of doing. She got a promotion in 5 months of coaching. And I'm not saying it's thanks to me, it's thanks to our coaching, because it often takes more than just reading the information online or reading a self-help book. It's actually someone calling you out, making you explore, challenging you, and having you think of what can I do? And her first thing was get in the habit of, okay, I feel that reaction. I'll give you a little example. She used to like cringe when she would get an email back from one of her higher uppers. Without even reading the email first, she was already panicked. She already had that reaction like, what I turned in wasn't right, or the report wasn't good enough, or she's going to criticize me or critique me before even reading the email. So she finally got in the habit. The second she saw she got an email or an answer or a reply to one of her emails, she'd be like, there she goes again. Or she likes me. And she even got down to the point of saying, I'm still here. I mean, after 2 years, she's still there. So it's like, what does that tell you? She must like me or I'd be fired, right? She realized she really liked this higher up, a woman, because she admired her. And she was so afraid that the woman didn't like my client's reports. It's like she realized on her own, if she didn't like me, she would fire me. She sees the reports and wants it a certain way. That's it. That's all it is. If she admires this woman, she obviously admires why she wants things a certain way, right? So it had nothing to do with my client. It was just, no, this woman wants it a certain way. So she took something. Yeah, that's great. Now I'll do this. It had everything to do with her leader. So it's all in her frame of mind, her thinking, her habit of how to react to it. So she always got in the habit of, here she is. I'm still here. And then she finally even started saying, she must like me. And she got somehow that vibe, that energy, we never knew what it was. She got a promotion. Not only did she get a promotion, she asked for something extra, which was to travel to meet some international clients and actually meet them face to face, because over COVID, all they ever did was email. They're like, that's a great idea. They sent her to Ireland. They sent her to England. It came out of nowhere that she proposed to do this. Her agency just came out. So it's all not just the little habits, but tiny little habits like that, like getting a ritual of saying something before you open an email, that really affects your psyche, because if you're saying it out loud, your brain's going, noted, computed, okay.
And
you're not like
proof. It starts looking for proof that what you believe is true.
Exactly.
Whether your belief is negative self-talk or positive self-talk, your brain will look for proof that you are correct. So you might as well look for positive things as opposed to negative things, right?
But right. And on that, I want to tag on to that. A lot of people have problems with the positive affirmations because they don't believe it. Okay, you can't just say, I'm a trillionaire Greek goddess, whatever it is. There's a little sand dust in their brain that doesn't believe it. So that part of the brain goes, no. Same thing with hope. If you hope something, there's a fine line between hope, great positive hope, and I hope something because you really doubt it. So you want to hope, you want to wish. So let's say confirmation over affirmation. Confirm something that's true and factual for you. Not just a positive little affirmation that you see on Instagram or wherever. Those are great, but if you don't believe it, you're not really going to put it in your mindset. If you say something to yourself that you believe or proof that you've done something, your brain again goes, noted, computed, you're capable. Yay, it even starts getting happy. So let's say you take it, this is really like a basic example. Let's say somebody wants to start working out, but you've tried a million times and it just doesn't stick. I had this one lady who just hated strength training, hated weights. She didn't really know why. She's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, but she needed to because she had high blood pressure. And her doctor said, you really need to start working on boosting your metabolism. And the best way is to strength train. He said it, not me. I'm like, yes. Because all she ever did was walk once in a while. Walking is great. It's great for the dog. It's not enough for you. So she needed to start strength training to boost her metabolism. She was in her 40s. She had high blood pressure. So on her, I'm like, what little amount can you do? So her act was 5 minutes a day. She's like, but that's not enough. I'm like, we're not talking about how long, how many workouts. What are you willing to do even when you really don't feel like it at your lowest? We came up with 5 minutes. I'm like, that's, 25 minutes per week. And I'm not the type to say that's better than nothing. I'm the type to say, you're same context. That's it. That you're going to do something physical and it's going to be strength training. So she started with 5 minutes. On her way there, this is the third part of it. You not only get an activator, something that activates, you're going to do this action, but you make sure that you get all the barriers out of the way. What can be my way to do that? You make sure that you set yourself up, whether it's information, resources, physically your environment where you're going to work out, or physically your home office, or physically your cubicle, whatever it is. You make sure that you boost your ability to do it. And then the third thing, reward yourself instantly. Yes, that long-term goal may be like the reward, the vision of it. Like, I know this is going to be good for me. That's not an instant reward. You need to give yourself that reward immediately. So even with her, because she really dreaded strength training, said, on your way to do it, what's the truth? She's like, that I hate it. I'm like, all right, say you're hating it and you're doing it anyway. She started laughing. She's like, okay. She started doing that. I hate this. And it started to turn out to not be like, oh, I hate this. She would just laugh like, I hate this and I'm doing this anyway. And it was just silly to her. And then as she was doing it, I really didn't like this, but I'm doing it. As she was doing it, I don't want to pick up this dumbbell, but I'm doing it. And then as soon as she was done, I did it. And I gave her one caveat. You have to say it out loud. You have to say it out loud. She actually enjoyed it after a while. And sometimes she would get all excited. I did 10 minutes. I did 15 minutes. I'm like, that's great. You don't have to, but if you do, you do. But the 5 minutes is great. So, and I have many examples like that. It's because you resist if you're being nagged, pushed, nudged, like you got to do it. But if you do that minimum, that little tiny action, if you feel like going for more, that's on you. That's your choice. No one's pushing you. So you're more apt to keep doing it. So you have to reward yourself for that tiny action. And now it's a habit with her. That develops into a habit. So it's just innate, it's inherent. You don't think about it. It comes from your subconscious. Your habits come from your subconscious. Your conscientious, intentional actions come from your conscious part of the brain.
You mentioned something repeatedly that I want to say in a slightly different way. Affirmations are great if you believe them.
Uh-huh.
If you don't believe them, immediately you say, oh, I am a trillionaire. No, you're not. You're a liar. That's the self-talk, right? So just because you hear somebody tells you an affirmation is good for you doesn't mean it is. Because if you start lying to yourself, you immediately create more resistance. And so moving forward becomes harder. Because now you have to go through this block. Oh, it's not for me. Being a trillionaire is not for me, right? You create more and more resistance when you could just say something that is true. I make more money today than I made 2 years ago.
There you go. Or today, I'm doing what it takes to move a little ahead. I'm moving the needle today.
Yeah.
I'm starting to move the needle today. If that's all you can say, I'm on my way to making money. Today, I'm open to doing the one most important thing to make more money. If that is true for you, and if that's not true for you, dial it down even more. Say what is true because your brain will accept it and start looking for that proof.
Exactly.
So yes, affirmations are great when you believe them, and that's why I like to say confirmation over affirmation. And same thing with the EFT when you're doing, and I'm not sitting here advocating for EFT, but I think that's why it worked for me, because I can say, while I don't have these many clients, let's say, I am open to doing the one main thing I need to do today toward that. I knew that was true. I was going to do at least one thing. And I am open to keeping my ears open for opportunities. I am open to listening to this person, whatever it took. And I knew it was true. And things started opening up because it is true. And then you feel accomplished.
That's why a lot of EFT starts with something we call a setup phrase, where you're like tapping on your karate chop point on your hand, the little flat part of your hand that you would use to break a board if you were in karate. Yeah. So even though whatever is true, I accept myself anyway, right?
Yep.
Even though I don't make as much money as I should be making by now, right? I accept myself anyway. Even though my business isn't where I want it to be, I accept myself anyway. Whatever it is, you're saying what is true. And then as you tap on the points, you're allowing that energy to feel relief in your body. It is true. I accepted myself anyway, even though I totally screwed up. I could be so much further along had I not made that choice. I could be so much further along if I had listened to this person instead of that person, or if I'd done this instead of that, whatever it is, right? But if you try to lie to yourself, it gets you nowhere.
Exactly. And just with whatever it is, EFT, whatever it is, that's my self-care and my calisthenics in the morning. But whatever it is you're trying to do, let's say, again, fitness or relationship or whatever it is, it's really also important to know that it's not a one-off. There's no secret sauce one-off, because that's what we're used to. We're used to hacks. We're used to plans. We're used to big programs, masterminds, whatever it is, diet. But it's not a one-off. It's not a temporary thing. What you do every day on a consistent basis is who you are. You are your habits. Your habits are you. That's your identity. Now, sometimes they get resistance, like, I'm much more than my habits. Like, okay, let's go through it. 40 to 50% of your day, this you can look up. Meta studies show that's where you take a compilation. You compile different studies, different times, different locations, different demographics, and then you make into one big meta study. 40 to 50% of our days are made up of a series of habits that come from the subconscious. You don't really think about it. There's no resistance. So that's half your day. So why not make what you want, getting to your goal, easy by making it a habit? And you have to start small, because you weren't doing it before. You don't add anything to your day. You just chain it to something you already do. And it's always easier, at least I'm finding this, I have no proof, but I'm finding through my clients, what I'm observing, that it's easier to change a bad habit or replace it or morph it into something good than it is to get rid of a bad habit. First of all, when you're saying that's a bad habit, it's like, shame on me. But when you see something like, I'm in the habit of doing this, now you can decide whether it's serving you or not. If you decide it's a, quote, bad habit, it's not serving me to scroll on Instagram every night before I go to bed, or it's not serving me to mindlessly eat after I already ate dinner, whatever it is, well, let's morph that. It's like, okay, that's a habit. That's it. Neutralize it. What can you replace that with? And that is way easier. It's like a sigh of relief for my clients because they can, and they're the ones that come up with what they're going to do. And it's not a habit yet. We go through picking, let's say, 10 actions, maybe 12 tiny actions that will then morph into a habit that will then progress into something bigger. And usually people come up with 10, 12 ideas, and then we rank them. Well, no, we take them down to 5, and then we rank them. It's like, no, I can do 2 or 3 of those. I'm like, whoa, Bessie, come back. 1. That's the hardest part for people to do. They want to do it all at once. Go faster. It's like, let's slow down. The slower you go, the faster you'll get there. So we pick one action and they just focus on that and put your white lab coat on and get out your stethoscope because it's an experiment. This is just a lab. You are experimenting. If something's not working, we'll see why not. If something's working, yay, great. What could even be better? Or what is supporting that? It's just an experiment. Put on your experimental lab coat. You're not failing. You're not succeeding. You're just experimenting. Yes, your daily achievement and your reward that you did it. But usually when something's not working, you tend not to reward yourself because you feel like you didn't do it right or you didn't do it. So that's really important. The reward is there when you did it. But if something's not going right, then we see why. It's just an experiment. You're not failing. You have to track your data, I would say. And again, people go to, let's say, conferences or inspirational things or courses, right? And they come home with all these things that they're going to implement into their work or into their financing or whatever it is, but then it just goes undone. Or they take online courses and then it just sits there, all those modules sit there in their documents. Or they start a diet, but then it just goes to the wayside. Why? Because you're not doing it now. What's to say you're going to all of a sudden take all this on? So, and it takes more than just time blocking. It takes actually starting slower and progressively into what you will do. I always say, now, will you do this? I'm like, what will you realistically do? We find what's doable, again, when you're at your lowest. What's the minimum you can do? Start from there, achieve that, keep going. You progress.
You mentioned something that I enjoy, which I don't remember the words you used, but I think of it as stacking. So you find something you're already doing, but you want to do something different. And I'll give you a specific instance, but then you add another action onto it. So it just, instead of like 4 steps, it becomes 5 steps. And it's very easy for you then to incorporate that, even though it's really a new thing, but you've added it on to a task that you already perform, right?
Yeah.
When I was first learning something called muscle testing, if you've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Part of learning that and becoming proficient is doing it repeatedly, over and over and over, until your subconscious understands what you want and will always answer you, right? And so, and one of the tools that I used was every time I was in a building where I had to use an elevator, right? Every time I stepped into an elevator and pushed a button for a floor, I had to practice. That was my add-on. I had to do some kind of muscle testing exercise in that elevator.
Tense up.
Yeah.
Tense that. Yeah.
In another place, when I would walk into a certain doorway, I would have to do a muscle testing exercise, right? And muscle testing is just true, false, yes, no. That's all it is. Yeah. But your subconscious then understands, okay, true is strong, false is weak. Yes is strong, no is weak, right? For whatever muscle you tell it to use, there are millions of ways to muscle test. But if you can muscle test one way, you can do it always.
Right.
Once you believe it, once you've got your subconscious understanding what you want it to tell you, right? But just that simple, you get on the elevator, you push the button, you do the exercise. You walk through that specific doorway, you do the exercise. And it's just, who would think walking through a doorway would trigger something, right? But
it's funny how it's become a way of life for you, huh? You just do it.
It's muscle testing all the time. I don't think about it. I do it anywhere. I can do it in a grocery store. I can do it in a restaurant. I do it with my clients, right? And no one would know I'm doing it because, yes, I started with very big muscles, so I could actually see when my arm got weak and when it was strong. I could do it with any finger. People do it with their eyelids. I mean, you get to the point where you don't actually have to see physical proof. You just know, okay, that's strong and that's weak. But if you're not really sure, say, is that true? Oh, yes. yes, no, yes, no, right?
Yeah.
But the more you practice, the more it becomes part of you. The more you learn how to stack these little habits onto something you're already doing, the easier that process can be for you.
That's exactly it. And you brought up two things that are really important. Notice how you said repetition, repeat, and practice. Okay. And I'm going to take it back to stacking. Before Atomic Habits came out and everybody was talking about habit stacking, I used to say habit chaining. I already used that method. I personally, this is Ronnie. I'm not saying that's wrong. It's just me, my style, my personality. I don't like stacking because it just feels like, you're stacking books one on top of the other. It's like, it feels kind of heavy. I always like linking something. It's like a necklace. You just link another, you make a chain. Mm-hmm. So habit chaining, habit linking, habit chaining. I love habit chaining because you're linking it to something. I know this may seem silly, but okay, you're in the habit of taking off the top of your toothpaste, putting on your toothbrush, brushing your teeth a certain way. You have a habitual way of brushing your teeth. That's why when you have to use the other hand, it's weird. You're in the habit of putting the top on, let's hope. See how many steps it's taking? It's not just one thing, I brush my teeth. So same thing, it's just a little link in the chain. And if you forget to put that top on, somebody else is going to be a little peeved. So, you're just in the habit of doing certain things. You don't think about it anymore. And that builds into a ritual. Same thing. I don't like to stack on only because mentally, I just prefer linking rather than stacking. But habit stacking is perfectly great. And I even have a PDF that I call habit stacking because people know what it is. But when you said repeat, that's it. People always ask me, and I even heard somebody this morning say it takes 21 days to build a habit. And I was like, maybe for you, or maybe you read that somewhere. Okay, not to sound obnoxious, but all the studies show it depends on who you are. And it depends on repetition. Because I always heard for diets, it takes 30 days or it takes 40 days. I read to lose a craving, which I do believe, to lose the craving on your tongue for your taste buds, it takes about 40 days to lose that craving. And I totally believe it because I've tested it myself. But everybody's different. The studies show it can take anywhere from, mostly, the big chunk is from 25 days to 185 days. 185 days, 25 to 185. The big thing is not length of time. This will take you 40 days. It's like, how often do you repeat it? If you repeat it daily, maybe you'll get it, it'll turn into a habit in 21 days. But if you do it like 3 times a week, and it's not really your habit every day or your daily action, it'll take longer. So everyone's different. Don't believe the numbers. Yes, there are averages, but really it'll take you as much as you repeat it. It's the repetition that gets you there. And just look at whatchamacallit, an athlete. It's repetition. It's not, he'll have it in a year. It's like, how many times does he practice? How many times does he practice? How many times does he repeat that same action? It's repetition that's important.
I want to go back to a word that you mentioned earlier that comes up a lot in so many areas, and that's identity.
Mm-hmm.
It can be so hard to step out of what we've always known, what we've always believed about ourselves. Like, I'm always sick, or I can never lose that craving, right? We get so wrapped up in the past that sometimes we don't leave the openings for the possibility for change for the future.
Yeah.
And so being aware of the habits that keep us stuck in the past can be really crucial to moving forward with a new future that we see is out there, but we just haven't believed that we could ever get there because we've always failed, right? Always failed in the past.
And the thing is, people think their identity is like, oh, well, that's my characteristics. It's, yes, you have your way of thinking and what you believe. You have your core values. What are your values and what do you value? Now, you can change your habits and it does change your identity. Because let's say you have a craving for something, I'll never lose that craving. Well, you can, let's say they put you on a deserted island, you never had it again, you'd lose that craving. That's all it is. So you're in the habit of always eating that, so you're always going to have that craving. Or whatever it is. Saying that your habits are your identity is a positive thing because guess what? You are going to only align your actions towards certain behaviors towards being the kind of person you want to be based on what you want, your values. So that's you. That's your identity. You are the type of person who eats healthy. What does that mean? And then you define it. What does a writer do? He writes. Don't go into, I write 20 minutes a day and 3 chapters a week. And, well, I didn't get anything done this week. It's like, well, that doesn't make you a writer. Writing every day or whatever you decide makes you a writer. What does a painter do? Paints. What does a healthy person do? While you're walking through that grocery store, well, a healthy person is not going to choose the sweet tarts. The healthy person is going to choose the apples. So you do what defines who you are. You get in the habit of doing that. So yes, you are your habits because the habit is the end result of your behavior. And then, of course, not just habits, because I said that's 40-50% of your day. The rest is intentional. You have appointments. That's not a habit. You have commitments. You have choices. You have adventures. And that brings up another thing. I hope you don't mind me bringing up. Habits set you up to be flexible, not rigid. They set you up to be flexible, not rigid. If you're the type of person who, for example, people are like, well, I'm going on vacation. My diet's going to be shot to hell. Why? Why wouldn't you go and have that chocolate mousse? Just don't have 3 of them in a row. Or why don't you go have that gelato? Just don't have it constant. Eat, don't overeat. Why can't you work out when you're traveling? Well, I don't know. It's vacation. I am the type of person who works out every day. What that is can be different every day, and it can be in a different scenario. Here at home, I'm in the habit of working out at the end of the day. That's what I like because I like taking care of all my business, all my stuff, and I tend to me at the end of the day, and then I shower and I get ready for dinner. Love it. Or I go to the gym and I do it, I shower and I come home. But when I travel, I'm the first one up before my husband. If we're with family or whatever, I get up before everybody else. I go to that fitness center at that hotel, or if we're like somewhere where there's no fitness center, I get it done by the pool or outside, wherever it is. It can be a shorter workout. It can be a different workout. But the point is, I'm still the type of person who, fill in the blank, got it done, took my shower. I don't have to disrupt everybody else's vacation because I'm not going to be thinking all day, oh, I got to get back to the hotel before dinner because I want to work out. No, we may never make it back to the hotel. I don't want to disrupt anybody else's routine or what they want to do. It makes me flexible to be open for anything the rest of the day. So that's what I mean by habit. It actually sets you up. And also with my clients, we also go, how I said, set yourself up for success, boost your ability and take away the barriers. Same thing with planning what you're going to do. I'm going to do this in the morning. As I'm making my coffee, I'm going to do some calisthenics. Great. What if a client called? What if the boss calls up? I need this report now. Or what if something happened? You're sick. So you always have a plan B. If this happens, fill in the blank. I will do this. So you actually set yourself up to get it done. And and things happen, mud gets thrown on the windshield. Sometimes you just can't. If you get sick, you get sick. You can't do it. You have to take care of yourself. But what I'm saying is you set yourself up for success by being the person who does whatever it is you want. So it does become your identity.
And the whole time you were talking, I was thinking of something that we call modeling, which is if you want to be a certain type of person, it might be in your best interest to figure out what that type of person who is very successful at what you want to be successful at what do they do all day? And then you figure out, okay, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And maybe I could add that 1 or 2 or 3 items into my daily routine, my habits. That might
give you ideas of how to do something like that in your way, your style. Yeah,
exactly. But there's a lot to be said for modeling when you want something, but you don't know how to get there. Well, maybe follow somebody who's already done it and see what they're doing that you can incorporate into your day. Exactly. Whether that's business or health or relationships. That applies to anything. Someone who is very successful at doing something that you think is not quite right in your life, right?
Yeah. Or that you just want better or more fun.
Yeah.
Like get in the habit of, and before you do anything, absolutely anything else, you roll over and you kiss your husband good morning. No matter what. You don't get up and check your phone. You don't get up and pet the dog. First thing, roll over, big kiss. That can be a great habit. It's amazing how that just builds intimacy, that little ritual or whatever ritual you want. It's amazing how just get in the habit of thanking your kids, thanking your spouse, your partner for the little things. Because we get in routines of not saying anything. Get in the habit of saying thank you. People are deathly afraid of making phone calls. Everybody hides behind the emails and the DMs now. Maybe get in the habit of making one phone call per day, or 5 minutes of phone calls, or 10 minutes of phone calls. You may get one phone call and you may get 3, or hangups, or busy, or, leave a voicemail. But you can get in the habit of doing something that takes you to the kind of person you want to be. Or networking. People dread network, even though they say it's great. Yes, you need relationships. Yes, you need friendships. So what little action can you take that will become a habit at work, a habit of how you do something that's really from the heart as a friend to your work friend, or a habit that will get you to network daily. So then when you go to the big networking events, it's easy breezy. Maybe instead of like 30 DMs per day, get in the habit of going that social media and finding one connection, saying, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Like your post, like this, comment on it, whatever. You can take little actions, but all of a sudden it becomes a habit. Like today, I'm going to say happy birthday on Facebook to all my Facebook friends. You know how you get the posts and notifications as people's birthdays? Maybe that becomes a habit. Whatever it is to take you to that goal without an agenda too. It's like, I'm going to get this habit because I'm going to get more networking and I'm going to get clients. Without the agenda, it's more to be the kind of person you want to be. And I bring this up because you said modeling. Like, what do people that you admire do? I noticed that Ariana Huffington, for example, puts posts and she doesn't have any call to action. She's not selling a darn thing. She's just sharing. And so I'm like, I really like her and I like that. So that's kind of modeling. I like to share when something thrills me and fulfills me and I think helps somebody. But I had to get in the habit of, will anybody care? I'll post anyway.
So speaking of that, because we're getting close to the end of our time together, you are on LinkedIn, Instagram. Where can people find you?
I'm all over the place because I just was, but I'm mostly on LinkedIn. I really love LinkedIn. I have a Facebook group. I'll show you how it in the show notes. I have a Facebook group for women. It's a Take Action Level Up Hub, and I post a lot on there. But other than that, you mostly find me on LinkedIn nowadays, and I do post on Instagram. Like, let's say this podcast, I would love to promote that, hey, I'm on this podcast, but I don't live on it. Where I think I'm most of the time is LinkedIn, and I have a website. So my website is my coaching business name. It's Ronnie Low Life Coach. Ronnie, RONNIE, Low, LO, lifecoach.com, RonnieLowLifeCoach.com. And you'll find me on LinkedIn under Ronnie Loaiza, Ronnie Low Life Coach. And I love to connect with people in there.
Cool. Yeah. So if you'd like to get in touch with Ronnie or have more insights from Ronnie, please click on the show notes or go straight to her website, whatever works best for you. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners? I know we touched on so many different topics, but something
that habits and habit forming affect every aspect of your life. So let's say you have a goal right now, or a challenge, or something you've been thinking of doing, or something you want to change. Contact me. I'll hear you. And then you'll start seeing, we'll talk about, what do habits have to do with it? Or what action could I take? And how can I use my habits toward that? It's not the secret sauce, like, just implement a habit. It's like, no, what action are you going to take? And you have to form some type of habit. So whatever goal you're thinking of, like you said in the very beginning, why am I not getting there? What are my daily actions? And slow down, take a breath. Don't think, I'm overwhelmed. I have no time. Slow down. What do you have time to do? And assess yourself. What do I do every day that's keeping me from that main goal? Or what do I not do every day that's keeping me from my main goal? And don't go to the big programs, plans, diets, whatever it is. Start small. And that's what I help people with. Start small. The smaller, the better, because you'll get bigger in that goal. Start slower. The slower you go, the faster you'll get there. And I used to think, reading things and doing the self-care rituals and reading affirmations and just doing all this stuff. Okay, this is the secret sauce. I found out that one-on-one help really saves you time and saves you money. So that's why I found out this is why coaching is good, because you need a coach to focus on you and help you help yourself instead of the programs that are intended for everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The programs are great to get little nuggets from, but to depend on it to change your life, that's putting a whole lot of pressure on something that's geared for hundreds or thousands of people, not geared directly towards you.
And I'm not talking about group coaching or group courses. Those are wonderful. I love them. I attend them. I do them. Or webinars. What I'm saying is to help you learn how to help yourself. It's great to focus on yourself with one-on-one attention because you're not always going to be with that coach. You're not always going to be with that help. You learn how to help yourself. And that's what you want because that's your life. And that's the rest of your life.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. I thank you so much for being here. It was a great conversation. I think so many nuggets of information were there for people who are tuning into the show. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Cool.
And I know we're it up.
Yeah. So for the listeners out there, I want to thank you as well for coming back for another episode. We've been around for a year now. It's almost unbelievable to think that we've been on the air for a year. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the honor that you have bestowed upon me of listening and keeping it alive for all this time. It's really great. So this is your host, Jean Border, with another great episode of the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast. Until next time.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Jean Border. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey.